It was a beautiful spring evening in Johannesburg, South Africa. I was a young police officer freshly out of college when I suddenly found myself stepping over the body parts of one of Nelson Mandela's Umkhonto we Sizwe terrorists. The stench of death and destruction was once again hovering over the nation of South Africa. Mandela's militant freedom fighter accidentally blew himself up as he was planting a bomb at one of Johannesburg's most popular shopping malls. A mall where my mother shopped and where I played putt-putt with my friends. I was the first officer on the scene, and that experience was permanently seared into my memory. Across town, where blacks were living in squalor, many of my own colleagues were terrorizing black families who were crying out for the rights of simple human dignity, the simple dignity to vote in the country of their forefathers, the simple dignity to drink water from the same fountain as a white man. A right that had been denied by an oppressive minority white apartheid government. The racial and tribal tension in South Africa was a powder keg ready to explode into full-scale civil war. Civil wars have destroyed many African nations, and South Africa seemed destined for the same fate. Then, a miracle was born. It was February 11th, 1990, when the white apartheid president took the whole world by surprise when he announced the unconditional release of Nelson Mandela from prison. Nelson Mandela was a human rights lawyer and a freedom fighter, and to white South Africans and to the West, he was a terrorist. Mandela was the Marxist friend of the communist Soviet Union, from where he received training and weapons to wage his war. Mandela was a friend of brutal dictators like Fidel Castro, Muammar Gaddafi, and Robert Mugabe. In 1964, after the Rivonia trials, Mandela was sentenced to life in prison for his participation in several bombings around South Africa. Some of those bombings were deadly. Joy Cain wisely quoted Kate Parker in her article Mandela, Man of Peace, as Mandela being a real man, a real flesh and blood human being. He's not a plaster saint, she said. The white minority who was enjoying power under the apartheid system was terrified. Many were convinced that they would be brutalized and even driven out, like those in neighboring Zimbabwe. After Mandela's release, South Africa suffered some of its most severe political violence, as Mandela and the white minority struggled to find a peaceful transition. South Africa was at the brink. It was during this time that Mandela's strength and humility became evident. On the 10th of May 1994, with the entire world watching in awe, Nelson Mandela was peacefully and joyfully inaugurated as South Africa's first post-apartheid president. Mandela had the daunting task to unite groups of people who had been at war with each other for decades. How could he succeed? How could Nelson Mandela overcome decades of hate and decades of distrust? How could Mandela lead a nation who would soon be called a miracle, a rainbow nation? Amazingly, Mandela's 27 years in prison became the catalyst to his success. As Mandela wrote in his autobiography, A Long Walk to Freedom, he was suffering at the hands of his captors, and he became determined to study his enemy. He wanted to understand them. He wanted to know them. Mandela did the unthinkable. He befriended his white Afrikaner prison guards. He learned their language and studied their culture. Nelson Mandela even went to church with them, and his heart was changed. Mandela's friendship with the prison guards was sincere and endures to this day. So what is it that allowed Mandela to miraculously unite a nation? Nelson Mandela forgave the Afrikaners. Forgiveness. Yes, that same forgiveness that Jesus displayed when he was hanging on the cross, and he cried out to his Father and he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Forgiveness removed the shackles of hate, and Mandela knew that mutual forgiveness was the key to national reconciliation. Mandela wanted to find a way to unite all the people of South Africa, something only the power of forgiveness could achieve. Mandela found his answer in rugby. Rugby was the favorite sport of the Afrikaners. It is a symbol of apartheid and is despised by black people. South Africa had been banned from international rugby for decades, but suddenly found themselves back in the international sphere after they were awarded the 1995 World Cup ceremonies. Mandela chose a symbol of hate and turned it into a symbol of hope. As seen in the movie Invictus, Mandela insisted on forgiveness as the key to uniting his beloved country.
The rainbow nation starts here. Reconciliation starts here.
Reconciliation, sir.
Yes, reconciliation, Jason.
Comrade President, not long ago these guys tried to kill us. Maybe even these 4 guys in my office tried and often succeeded.
Yes, I know. Forgiveness starts here too. Forgiveness liberates the soul. It removes fear. That is why it is such a powerful weapon.
The entire country united behind their rugby team. And their World Cup victory became one of the most storied events in the history of international sports. Nelson Mandela went from political prisoner to people's president. Forgiveness freed Mandela. Madiba, as he's lovingly known at home. Forgiveness freed Madiba, and forgiveness freed his country.